How are y'all doing? Y'all doing all right? Welcome back. Second day of faculty in service. We survived the first day. We will definitely survive the second day as well. Started off this morning with a great session with Dr. Richardson. And now we got a nice little interesting breakout session for you all today. I know when you all saw the title, I got the power. I know y'all were wondering, like, Lesaine, what is it that we're going to talk about on today? Now, we're going to be one big choir right now, is what we're about to do. We're going to be one big choir. So I need you to put your hands together, clap. All right? Play with me. I got the power. I got the power. Stop clapping. So you got the power. Do you? Do you?
Yeah. What situation?
We're going to talk about it. Yeah. You can get it right. Actually, we do. Each and every one of us, we have what we would consider to be bases or sources of social power. So that's what we're going to talk about on today. We're going to look at social power. There's 5 different sources. There's actually 6, but there's 5 main sources of social power we want to talk about. And how those sources of power, how they affect the behavior of our students, but also how they affect the behavior of us. So that's what we're going to look at when we talk about our social power, how that leads to relationships, and how it also plays into student motivation. Okay? So I'm allowing my great colleague to introduce herself and tell everybody what division she teaches in.
Hello, everyone. I am Annette Hunter, and I am in the Education Department division, and so I do a number of things. Our ECM program, which is Early Child Care Management, we're changing the name, and I also do work with Debbie Poston, and we do the Early Childhood Education and Elementary Education.
And I'm Dr. John Lesaine, campus utility man, as I like to tell people. My official title is Associate Dean / Associate Athletic Director for Student Athlete Success. Also, I'm an Associate Professor of Physical Education and a lot of other stuff. Sarah's back there laughing. Yeah, absolutely, right? Yeah, they keep adding to my title. So why are we talking about this? First and foremost, everything has an art and a science to it. Every single thing has an art and a science to it. The science, the research that has been done, the art is how we actually put it into play, okay? Everything has an art and a science, including teaching, advising, and mentoring, the things that we mainly do here at Newberry College. As an educator, we all have power. We do. We all have power, but we must know how to use it properly. Now, when you hear me talk about some of these sources of power, what I want you to understand is this. It's not the fact that we like blatantly go out and say, hey, I have this source of power. Sometimes it's just based off of our status and our stature and who we actually are to other people. That plays a role in how people actually respond to us. It plays a role in those people's behavior. Now, I teach a course in sports psychology, and one of the things that I always talk to my students about is Lewis' formula of behavior, which is this right here. B is equal to F, parentheses, PE, which says that behavior is a function of personality and the environment. What does that mean? That means that a person and who they are at that given time and the environment that they're in is going to interact with each other to determine how they're going to behave. Our students are who they are. And you got to remember this. They bring a lot of different things to the table. Some things good, some things undesirable. That's just the truth. But also who we are, because we are part of the environment, it also plays a role in how they actually behave. And so when you think about who we are as people and the attributes that we have and the power that we actually have as well, it can actually indeed affect your behavior. Now, here's a quick definition of power. The capacity, or I can also put the capacity or ability to produce intended and foreseen effects on others. In other words, is this: I can get you to do what it is that I want you to do because of A, B, and C. I can get you to act in a particular way because I can give you something. I can get you to act in a particular way because I can take something away from you. I can get you to act in a particular way because of my title. I can get you to act in a particular way because I have the expertise. I know what it is that I'm talking about. But that's what power is all about. It is a way that we can actually affect people's behavior based off of some source. Now, some people think that power and authority are the same thing. They're not the same thing. They can be related. Lesaine, what do you mean by that when you say that power and authority are not the same thing, but they are related? There's some sources of power that you actually get from your authority, from who you are. But just as we have power, our students also have power as well. And it also affects our behavior. So it goes both ways. And some power is considered to be potential. I'm going to talk about that in a quick second. All right, so French and Raven's 5 sources of power. Here they are, and I've kind of actually already explained them to you. The first source of power is known as legitimate power. Legitimate power is power that is based off of a person's title. It's based off of a person's title, okay? I can get you to do what it is that I want you to do because of who I am, because of my title. Now, legitimate title can be scary from time to time, okay? Because there's some people who go on power trips. I'm not going to lie. Seriously, there's some people who go on power trips. You will do what I say, what I tell you to do because of who I am. Any parents in the room? Done that to your kids before? Yeah, absolutely. 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 Sometimes, seriously, sometimes we have to bank on that legitimate power. Sometimes you have to get people to do what it is that you want them to do based off of who you actually are. On the flip side with legitimate power, remember I said that some sources of power are potential? There's sometimes when you don't even mean to use this type of power, but people will change their behavior based off of the type. Call a student to your office. They come in and you say, hey, I need you to do this. They might do it not because you're trying to impose your will on them. They might do it because, hey, I was actually taught to, obey others. Or I was actually taught to, respect those people in places of authority. So legitimate power can be potential. Then we have expert power, which is based off of expertise. Okay, you've been doing it for a long time. You got great success with it. People see that you also have been successful with it. And, when we talk about, our experiences, the things that we've been able to do, we're going to have some students that will listen to us and do what we asked them to do because we know what it is that we're talking about. Another source of power that we have is reward power. Reward power can be tricky, but it is power that is based off of one's ability to reward somebody with something else. Incentivization, incentivizing stuff. Parents, once again.
Eat your vegetables so you get dessert.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. You eat your dessert once you eat your vegetables. Or I always like to, I give this example in class. My dad, he would always say to my sister and I, when it was report card time, for every A that you bring into the house, I'm gonna pay you $25. For every B that you bring to the house, I'm gonna pay you $20. Oh, I was rich. I'm not gonna lie. I was rich. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I got you. As a matter of fact, my dad was like, I need you to slow it down just a tad bit. Oh, can I pay you in installments? That's honestly. But that's it. But your reward power is you can get somebody to do what it is that you want them to do because you can reward them with something. And seriously, that's how some of our students are. That's how some of their mindsets are. What's in it for me? Sometimes you have to say, hey, anybody do this with the course evaluation? If you do the course evaluation, I'm gonna give you some extra credit. Anybody, yeah, might give you a point or something like that. Absolutely. It's for some of them, they will do it simply so they can get the reward. This source of power is also very tricky because there are some people who will only do it simply because of the reward. They won't do it because it's good for them. They won't do it because it's any other type of value. They just want the reward. They will have coercive power, which is power that is based off of a person's ability to punish somebody for wrongdoing. Parents, again, I got to pick on parents up. Any parent got the look? Got the look?
I got grandpower. Grandpa power.
Grandpa power, yeah. Just give them the look. Sometimes you don't even have to punish them. It's the mere threat of the punishment that would actually change their behavior. When we talk about coercive power, that's also a power where there's a lot of potential there. Even if you don't act upon it, if you threaten them, but you don't act upon it, it still could actually change the behavior. But my favorite one, and the one that is the most effective, is one that is known as referent power. And referent power is based off of somebody's like or respect for you. They have admiration for you. That's what referent power is all about. It's, I can get you to do what it is that I want you to do because, not because of my title, not because of my expertise, not because I can give you something or take something away. I can get you to do it because you respect me and I respect you.
Relationship.
Thank you. There you go. There you go. So how does this tie to motivation? We are going to talk about relationships. How does this tie to motivation? Quickly, motivation is defined as both the direction and the intensity of effort. It's how hard somebody is, whether or not somebody seeks something out or whether or not somebody avoids something. But also when we talk about intensity, it's how hard they actually try. Intensity is easy to see. You can tell whether or not somebody's really trying hard or something. But direction always isn't the most obvious thing to actually see. But sometimes you can tell when a student, when you call them a student, you might call them in class and they kind of shy away, they look away from you, they're probably highly motivated not to say anything in class. So it's important to understand that. Students can be either motivated intrinsically or extrinsically. Intrinsically, they do it because they want to do it. Extrinsically, they do it because of some outside, some external force. But what we have to understand is the source of power you choose to employ will determine the motivation orientation of your students. If we go reward coercive, that's extrinsic. It's external. That's basically what that is. But if we start to look at referent power, which is based off of relationships because people like you, sometimes that can be both intrinsic and extrinsic, especially if they value the relationship. The value of the relationship is key when we look at sources of power and how to actually motivate our students. So I'm actually going to skip need achievement, and I'm going to turn it over to next. So she can talk about.
Yeah. Also in the literature on motivation, it suggests that you cannot really motivate anybody. All you can do is provide the environment in which they can motivate themselves. Mm-hmm. And all of these things are nice, but I have dealt with students who just don't care. They're in the class because they have to be. Mm-hmm. And as long as they get their D's, that's all they care about. What power source do I use in that point where they don't do it because they don't want to, they don't care?
Reference. Okay. If you develop a relationship with them and they respect you and respect what it is that you're trying to do for them, I would say referent power is the power that you want to use. Help them find the value, especially the value in a relationship. If they find the value in the relationship, I guarantee you, you can have some of them eating out of the palm of your hand or running through a brick wall.
Exactly. It's like being a coach. Once you establish that relationship,
Absolutely.
those kids are going to go above and beyond.
Absolutely. I would say right. That for me is right.
Everybody's motivated by something. You just got to find what that motivation is.
Absolutely. Can we combine some of the sources of power also? Absolutely we can. Like referent and expertise, that combination is most effective, to be honest with you. Sometimes referent and reward can work. Sometimes referent and coercive can also work. That's a very good observation. All right. Go ahead.
So I guess you're all wondering, how does this all tie into you being an advisor and having your advisees. Okay, so John talked about the different social powers. And so we're going to look at what is a social relationship and why it is important, because some of us are using some of those powers and the wrong powers when we are with our advisees. We are not talking to them in a social way that is calming and great for them. So what is social relationship and why is it important? So I put this up here so you could get a good view of what it is. So a social relationship involves constant series of social interactions between two or more people. Two or more people. So when you are with your advisees, that's one person and you make two. You're making that social connection. So why are these important? So they are important as they allow people to get to know each other, to cooperate, to fulfill social needs. That's what we're here for as advisors. We're trying to help them fulfill their needs. What do you need in order to be successful and graduate? So when you think about this, isn't it what we want to build with our students? Because a lot of times after my advisee leave, or sometimes I'll have two at a table, when they leave, I always have that afterthought. How can I build this social relationship with them? So we're not just only talking about in the classroom with our students, we're talking about our advisees. Why does this matter? If students find value in relationships, and this goes back to the referent power, it can be used in an effective way. If students find value, if we connect with our students, if we engage with our students, it lessens the sting when less desirable sources of powers are used when needed. You don't need to act like you're the big bad wolf when you have your advisee come in. They don't need that. Some of them come in, they've had a hard day. They're looking for you for that social ability to help them, to engage with them. Maybe ask them. I always meet mine at the door. And I make it look like I am so very glad to see you, and I am. And I meet them at the door and I say, hello, how are you? And if they don't have that smile on the face, oh, everything okay? Come in. So I walk with them. And we're building that social relationship as we sit down and talk about some of the problems and things that's going on, even before we start talking about, oh, what do you want to take next semester? Because I know we're on a time clock when we have a lot of advisees. It's more like, okay, did you look at the thing? What is this? Okay, move along. Okay, all right, now, okay, well, and if the person could be talking to you, go, well, you know, I got about 5 out here, but we can talk later, and you never get back to that person at all. It makes it easier to have those tough conversations with students when we have built that social relationship. Okay, so one thing I want to tell you, smart thing here.
Yeah, go back.
Okay, go back.
There you
Okay, I want to talk about the SMART goals. And these are going to help you with your students. So those of you who don't know it, I'm going to read it off because we forgot to put it up here. So S represents specific. You want to be specific about things with your advisees. M, measurable. Okay. A, achievable. Can it be achieved? What you set out for your advisees, can it be achieved? R, realistic. Can you be realistic with me? Because that's what our students are looking for. They're looking for realistic advisors, not phony ones. So don't be nice to me. And then I walk out the door and you got 10 things to say to me. I go tell Dr. Jones about that advisee that just left. Be realistic about things. Timely. And I know your time matters. Everybody's time matters. But can you go over a little bit of 5 minutes with that advisee? If needed, could you do 10 minutes? Again, building that social relationship.
There's the other interpretation of the bar is sometimes results are achievable, but they're not realistic for that student,
Mhm.
right? And that's the other thing I think we have to keep in mind. Is it possible for every student to get an A? Yeah, that's achievable. But for some students, that may not be realistic for them because of background and history. And so you're actually right, realistic in long terms, but also in terms of setting goals, that gets back to the relationship and knowing the student
Absolutely.
and what's possible to do. And so that's always the other, I always use the example, is it achievable that I can run a 4-minute mile? Yeah, but be gentle with me. Is it realistic? Thank you for being gentle.
Yeah, and I'm a second number coming to your point. And, you know, when we're it goes back to having those tough conversations. Like when you know a student is struggling and they have a D and they're trying to get to an A, and be like, honey, we got some work that we got to do. This isn't going to be easy. So when you build that relationship with them and you're telling them something that they necessarily do not want to hear, that's when we talk about how it kind of actually lessens the sting. Like for me, y'all know one of my second jobs, I'm a referee. I love it. I absolutely love it. She ain't a referee too yet. We referees, absolutely love it. And so like, I have a job that I have to do. And there's times that I have to put the hammer down on a coach or on a player. But get this, when I have the right type of relationship with them, when I'm treating them the right way, they know that, hey, he doesn't have it out for me. When I have to tee up a coach, because I've had to give coaches technical fouls and throw coaches out of a game, they know it wasn't personal. John was doing his job. We've got that relationship. John is doing his job. John, Jeff.
I see the same thing when it comes to developing career goals. The student, and the trick is to try to get them to say, hey, if you want to get there, you've got to change how you do things.
Absolutely.
And that obviously is not something that's going to happen in one meeting. So you have to build over time.
Absolutely.
That's I find that's a saying all the time that I use everywhere I go in a classroom. I tell them that we're going to get to know each other. This is our community. We take care of each other. I take care of all of you like you're my babies. But you have to know them and you have to build that relationship. If you don't build relationship with your students, you're not going to have it. And that's the same with your advisees. I've had advisees come to me, they transfer from one advisor to another. And they said, well, you sit down here and you chat with me and you hug me if I need a hug. And I have this saying, and I know Dr. Jones knows this, every time. It could be a classroom, it could be an advisee leaving. I always walk into the door and I say, have a blessed day. Take care of yourself. I'm here if you need me. That lets them know, wow, this lady is really into me. She wants to see me be successful. But you got to know them first. You can't ignore them. You have to know them.
Ready for some scenarios?
Yes.
All right. So, do some role play, and we're going to follow the directions of Dr. Hunter. She's going to give us our directions.
All right. So you're going to have about 2 to 3 minutes in your group to view one of these scenarios. You don't know which one you're getting. They're all different. And so I think it's going to be 5 to a group. Now here's the catch. I'm looking when you act. Oh, did I say act out? When you act this out, because I know some of you are going to say, no, you do it, you do it. So we only need 2 people from your group to act out the scenario. However, we need everyone to participate in helping them say, what are we going to do in front of everyone? Okay. So what we are looking for, we're not looking for how well, quote unquote, you act out. We're looking at how well within that scenario that you are building that social relationship with that advisee. Okay. So that's what we're looking at. And we're going to talk about it when we're done. So over here, I'll give scenario 1 and make 5 people there. And I think in the middle here, Julie, thank you.
Okay, so I'm the professor and you're the student. How you doing? Good to see you today.
I'm doing okay. I'm just sort of worried about my career, you know. My parents want me to make a lot of money, but I'm just not sure that this is the major I need to do, and I'm worried about getting a job. I'm just not feeling comfortable about this, and I'm a junior now, and it's too late to change my major. What am I going to do?
Well, let me see if I can help you a little bit. So you chose this major though. Did you do that because this is what you love? You like the major, you like what you're majoring in.
Yeah, I like science.
So then one of the things that you're thinking about though, or maybe your parents, I think you mentioned, putting some pressure about how much money you might make or a job you might find. So is that more important to you than actually what you really want to do for the rest of your life?
Well, I'm not sure, you know, my parents aren't too well off, and they're sort of worried, you know, they got 5 brothers and 2 sisters, and they all want to go to college, and, you know, pressure on me to get a good job so I can help support the family. So I just
Get out in 4 years.
yeah, and I need to graduate in
You're
4
older,
years.
junior.
Wait,
So
Yeah.
this is your first semester, junior. So if you want to change your major now, would you be willing then to spend the 5th year and then have the finances for that as well? So I don't know if you consider that as a.
I haven't thought about that yet. You know, I was just sort of concentrating on the idea of, ooh, I can be a college graduate and get out there and make some money.
Well, let me kind of share with you, like personally, my philosophy, and maybe it'll help you to make it out. But no matter what you choose to major in, if you're not happy with that, if that's not what makes you happy, you change it and you get some other job just for the money. If that's what you're looking at the rest of your life, you may end up in a job or a career that you hate. So my personally, I would want to do what I really think I really love, because if I'm going to be really good at something, it's because I love doing it, not for the money. And no matter what job you might take, if you're top in that field because you love it, you're good at it, you're going to make money.
Thank you.
Thank you. So everyone who was listening to that conversations, Act 1, so what kind of social relationship does the advisor and the advisee appear to have? Just hearing that conversation, what do they have? What type of social relationship they have?
There's trust from the student, I saw.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anyone else?
I'm not sure if it's experiential or if it's referential. I'm not sure. I really couldn't see from that dynamic. So I would say it's one of those two, but I really don't feel like I could see. I don't think it was long enough to know to you guys to see which they have, but I think there's probably experience coming in there. But I'm not sure about referential or
I think
not.
it's expertise.
I would
Expertise,
say
yeah.
definitely experience of expert powers there. I think I said it right. Anyway, expert power, my mind's going. But I also would have to say there's a little bit of referent power that is there. It's probably not, when we probably look at the split, because it's not always going to be a perfect split when you use like, more than one power per se. But I would probably have to say it's probably more expert power and then a little bit of referent power also tied into it as well. Is what I would have to say.
And I think eventually it will be more relational.
Absolutely,
I
yeah.
think it's a good
Yeah.
beginning.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
I tried to play that in there with the idea that I trusted my advisor for
Yes.
advice as I made some of those comments.
And I love the way you did that, Charles, because you trust him enough as if you were talking to a family member that you trust. So I enjoy hearing that, so thank
Of
you.
course, all my students love me.
And I know I started, you got to talk to us.
I want to hear that group back there.
I'll also say this, one of the tricky things about power is this. Sometimes you think you're using one source of power, but the student kind of actually interprets it something totally different.
Yeah.
Sometimes that honestly happens. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you are banking or using a source of power you didn't even realize that you're actually using. Sometimes our students do respect us, even though sometimes they don't show it in the best way. But sometimes we actually can bank off of some referent power. Sometimes that honestly does happen. Even if that's not the source of power you intended to use. So just kind of, that's something just to keep in mind. Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question about the advising model? Like we've been talking about developmental advising for a couple of years.
Yeah.
We're talking about building relationships here, and I feel like today we're talking about it from a situation where we're working with a student since they're a freshman or a sophomore. But everybody knows that we get some students who are juniors and seniors,
Yeah.
and they come in and they have transcripts that are all over the place. And so they not only need somebody to be, this is important, but we're only going to be with that student for maybe a year,
Absolutely.
maybe a year and a half. And so I just like in the future think it might be helpful if we distinguish that there's really two systems we're talking about, because I think with those students, it's what we're talking about here is important. But realistically, if I never have that student in my class and I only see them for advising, or they were advised first and then given to me and I only see them maybe twice for advising, that student has different needs. And so when I think about the things that they need, they might not be coming to me for that advice, that relationship. They might have that with another professor. They may really need me to just get them a schedule
Absolutely.
that gets them out. And so I think that's a separate system that we need to think about, because I think that's a student need we're probably not addressing, because I know you get some of those transcripts. I know I get some of those transcripts. We probably all get some of those situations. And or even when you guys were talking about switching majors, we have students that switch majors in their senior year. And if there was a way, they've already built a relationship with somebody, but really they need classes from that last part. If we could just, and I know that's off topic here, but I was thinking about it and I
You
didn't want
bring
to
up
say
a
it.
very good point, because our hope is with us migrating from Gens EX to Gens 1. That's going to give us a lot more capability within our academic advising module. Whereas we will be able to pretty much create a profile for every student, and that profile lives in J1. And so if a student gets moved from one advisor to another advisor, the other advisor gets all that information.
But I mean, even if that student had the opportunity to potentially still talk to their initial advisor, if they've spent that time building a relationship, and maybe just have that second advisor as a professional person that's looking over transcripts or making sure they're in the right classes. Yeah. Because I'm just talking realistically time. If I'm going to meet with them for 30 minutes for the first advising, 30 minutes for the second, and then they're graduated, I don't, and they're not in any of my classes, I might not have time to build that type of relationship, but somebody already else, they may have that relationship, and we know they just need a relationship.
Okay.
And I want to bounce off of that, Sarah, because that's a good point when you talk about the seniors. We also in the future, we can discuss that with Carrie. We also in the future need to talk about how we're going to work with non-traditional students when we advise them. It's very different. I mean, I had two already. Totally different. Our meeting, the way we build our relationship compared to the students who come in as freshmen. So yes, that is something we need to look into. Yes.
I just want to follow up with Sarah's comment. I've had students that I was director of honors program for about 20 years, and so I got honors students to start with, and I had them in a class the first semester, so I got to know them, and then I was their academic advisor. And some of them were, I had one guy who was a business major, and I said, you know, you need to have a business advisor so that as you get to be a senior, they can help you with career choices. It's, oh no, doctor, you're doing fine. Like, you know, we had a 4.0 GPA. After he graduated, he had an internship in China. And so he was the type of person that was very self-motivated. And so, like you said, Sarah, he was coming in there making sure he had the classes he needed to get the core and things like that. And he was ready to go otherwise. And then we have other